You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 CBS Radio.
Welcome to Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan. You're listening to us on CBS Radio, WJFK 1580 AM, or visiting us at WMCLive.com for this and for any of our previous episodes. Look for WMC Live on Facebook and on Twitter, and you can now stream, download, and subscribe to our show's podcast worldwide anytime at iTunes. My first guest today is what Ms. Magazine used to call an accidental activist, someone just going about her life who decides she has had it on some issue and takes action. Then we talk with a woman who rose above unthinkable tragedy to help other women and men suffering as she had. Last, Sheryl Sandberg revisits the program, and while I have praise for some of the programs of her organization, Lean In, I also have quite a criticism. So Sheryl and I will get into it. But first we need to look inside the headlines. If you're at all like me, you've been marveling these past weeks that there are only men in the Ukraine. Well, with one exception, the one with the braids, Tymoshenko, the former two-time prime minister. That's the one woman. And then the rest, they're all men. They gave birth to each other. They run there's no women. So I tried to sleuth around and get you some news inside the headlines about what women have been doing in all this, and found a few sources and located some people as connections from the Sisterhood is Global network. And one good piece in the International Business Times by Palash Ghosh on the women who are playing crucial roles in these protests. So here's what I came up with. One of the hallmarks of the ongoing protests, in fact, is the significant participation, guess what, of women in the anti-government demonstrations. One of the sources is Sarah Phillips, an anthropology professor at the Indiana University School of Global and International Studies, and she's written 2 books about Ukraine. And she says, quote, women have been especially active in work related to, these are classic female tasks, I must say, provision of medical services, food prep and distribution, information gathering and distribution, and have also so-called manned, staffed, we would say, the barricades in Kiev, and have organized themselves into self-defense units in Kiev and Ternopil. Phillips estimates that almost half of the protesters, about 47%, have been women who are also using, guess what, social media to promote their cause, including a Facebook group called Half of the Maidan, Women's Voices of Protests. She notes, Phillips, that the women say that the protests are not so much about Ukraine joining the European Union, but more about eliminating corruption at home. They want a life free from daily navigation of corrupt power structures. And in fact, there's a YouTube video entitled I Am a Ukrainian, in which a young woman speaking quite excellent English explains precisely that. And how women in Ukraine want to live a normal life. Then another source, Olga Oliker, who is a senior international policy analyst at the RAND Corporation, which always makes me nervous, RAND, you know. Anyway, you don't have a lot of Ukrainist experts lying around. So she explains that the participation of women is not at all unusual because during the Soviet period, when Ukraine, of course, was part of the Soviet Union, all women had equal rights, equal access to education and jobs, at least officially. Then they did a double shift when they got home, which they, in fact, are still doing, unlike women, of course, anywhere else in the world. Oh, my, no. So in addition, most Ukrainian women are educated, in fact, more educated than men on average, and are still engaged in the workforce, but few have ascended to leadership roles. Many of them work in government, but far fewer are elected to political office. And despite the existence of anti-discrimination legislation, anti-discrimination laws are not enforced. Big surprise there. There are very strong gender stereotypes in Ukraine, and the Kiev Post newspaper has reported that women make up just under 10% of the parliament, whereas in the Soviet era, quotas called for 30 to 35% representation for women. One of the areas where Ukrainian women seem to be making it is in business, although the resistances to them are severe, plain old sexism. In fact, former Prime Minister Yulia Tymoshenko, that's the braids, the one with the yellow braids, sort of a cross between a Princess Leia look and Wizard of Oz. And she herself was a wealthy businesswoman before she entered politics. And she was released, of course, from prison a week or two ago after serving time for corruption charges related to a natural gas contract with Russia, among other alleged acts of malfeasance. But it's thought that the charges against her and her imprisonment were politically motivated, since she was jailed by Yanukovych, who was her former political opponent and who, of course, has now been displaced from power. She has said she's going to run again, and she is popular with many Ukrainians, but there's such anti-establishment tone running through the protests now that it's thought she might not even she might not be electable. And in addition, sexism is alive and well in the Ukraine. For example, when Yanukovych was running for president in 2010, he refused to hold a debate with her because a woman's place, he said, is in the kitchen. And everybody oohed and awed and was shocked and denounced and condemned him for his statement and then voted for him. And then last but hardly least, there's Femen, F-E-M-E-N. You remember the Ukrainian feminist group that stages topless protests around the world in the name of feminism and fighting against authoritarianism. Femen is now based in France, so they haven't been directly involved in the protests, but many women in Ukraine don't take them seriously. They think that only the media pays attention to them for obvious reasons, and that they're sensationalistic, and that they take attention away from the serious work for women's rights that women are trying to do in Ukraine. And then, just as a PS, some movements in Ukraine seem to be moving women back into traditional gender roles, at least women of a certain generation. And this, of course, has to do with the re-rise of religious faith and the church. And the stereotypes of motherhood, home, and hearth. But encouragingly, among younger women, they're still moving away from those notions and they're seeking professional careers. That's the good news. The bad news is the professions are still sort of coded female: healthcare, education, and the nurturing and caring professions, so-called. So that's inside the headlines from Ukraine, where, in fact, guess what? There are WOMEN women. You wouldn't know it from the coverage, which is focused on Putin's bare torso, his obsession with manhood, and a lot of saber-rattling and bad stuff. Now it's time for my first guest. In case you have moments wondering whether an individual person can make a difference, this guest will be very reassuring. She was going about her life when something dreadful crashed into it and then continued. But she did something about that. And we're going to refer to her only as Anna R., using only her last initial, not her name, for security reasons. Anna, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad that you came on. Well, Anna R., we just used the initial, because this all started with you're being a victim, and now you're a survivor of online stalking. Tell the story.
So it started in my previous position, and this was a couple years ago now. I had just gotten out of college. fresh, ready for work. I got a position and was so excited about it. And unfortunately, it turned sour pretty quickly. At one point in my position, I was sexually assaulted. And it was a pretty traumatic experience for me. So I quit that day. I walked out. I never looked back on that position. Unfortunately, it didn't just end with that incident, and I never heard from the man again. I do have a LinkedIn site for myself. I feel it's important for young professionals, especially coming straight out of college, to be open to networking and having the opportunities available. But unfortunately, I was starting to be stalked by this man who had sexually assaulted me.
Can I interrupt a second and let back up for a second? Did it not occur to you, or was it just too terrifying, or to report him?
I did report him to LinkedIn. That was the first step I took.
No. I mean beforehand, after the assault, even before he started the stalking. After the assault on the job.
To police?
To the police, to the company you worked for, to his superior?
Well, as far as the company goes, it is a very small company, and he was the owner.
Uh-oh.
So I could not go any higher than that, so that option was depleted.
Right.
As far as going to the police, I did speak to the police, and I could have taken it further if I wanted to, but there wasn't much they could do about it. And I really, at that point, was concerned about my safety, if I had gone after him.
Yeah.
I didn't know what action he was going to take back. So I was nervous about that, so I decided to just let that go.
No, it's understandable. I mean, you were very young, and it was your first job. Oh, my God, this has happened to thousands and thousands of women. All right, go on. So he began stalking you on LinkedIn.
He began stalking me on LinkedIn. I would go on my profile, and he would look at my profile every day. On the other social media sites, Facebook and Twitter, they have blocking options. So it was very easy for me to go ahead and just block him right away. Didn't have to worry about him. On LinkedIn, I did not have that option. He would look at my profile every day. I was going to job interviews, and if I made connections with somebody who was out of my area, he would contact me and say, where are you working? Did you move? What are you doing? It really started to get scary at that point.
Very, yes, indeed. So you reported this to LinkedIn and to block him, and they said that they couldn't do it unless you went to court?
That's correct.
This is crazy. What excuse did they give for being different from the other social media sites?
They said that it was the whole point of LinkedIn was to be open, to network with everybody, and they didn't want people to start blocking for no reason, because that started to hinder the point of their website.
I see. It's always so interesting to me when they use the word people, and they actually mean women, because there certainly are cases where men have been stalked. I mean, we all know about Fatal Attraction and the big movie and blah blah. But 99 and 100% of the cases of being stalked, like Ivory Soap, are women being stalked by men. And then suddenly it becomes people, Okay, go on. So you decided to fight back and start the petition.
Yes, I started this petition just on a whim. I thought to myself, I have to do something, anything. I don't know if it's going to take off or what, but I'm going to try. So I started this petition on change.org, and it started off slowly. I was just getting a few people. I started a group on LinkedIn to tell my story and for others to join in and just get the petition out there. Shortly after I started the petition, I was contacted by a wonderful person at change.org. His name is Tim. And he said, I think what you're doing is great, and I want to help you get this off the ground. And so with his help, he was able to expose me more to social media outlets through change.org. He had connections to LinkedIn to get conversations started. And from there, signatures started rolling in. And on this petition site that I started, you could see people writing comments of their stories. And, they've gone through same experiences as me, some a lot worse.
Right.
So it was really encouraging to hear other people being very supportive.
Yes, that's wonderful. Because, I mean, as you said in the petition, why should we have to sacrifice our networking opportunities for something that's neither our fault or something we're powerless against? And so eventually, LinkedIn, was it through the conversation? It was through the pressure, I'm sure, as well, because there were almost 10,000 signatures.
That's correct.
Way to go!
Thank you.
And then LinkedIn caved, right?
That's right. I was contacted last week by my contact at LinkedIn and says we're going to be issuing a blocking feature, which is so exciting.
Wow. That is amazing. I swear, you are a perfect living example, Anna, of what I call the sort of the citizen activist. I mean, you were just, you didn't think I'm no revolutionary. I'm not trying to, I'm out of college. I want a good job. I want to be a professional. I have a good education. Just let me, live my life. And you sort of, like an accidental activist, you fell into this sideways, but you fought back, and it's people like that make such a huge difference. And I bet you've got a taste for it now too, and nobody's going to tread on you without your fighting back in future, I bet.
It's very empowering.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it feels good.
Well, it should. I congratulate you for doing this, and I wish you all possible luck about your career, which I won't even ask what area it's in, because, God forbid a stalker may have been listening. I've had them. Most women at some point have been stalked in a minor way or a major way, and it is a terrifying alternation of reality. It really is. It's an invasion of space and sanity that is utterly ghastly. So, particularly in the internet world, where there's a lot of danger for women from a lot of sort of crazy guys in their pajamas, you've made a real dent. Thank you, Anna, for what you did. And what you did also for other women. This is a case where you took it to the max. I mean, you didn't just do it for yourself. That's where it started, but you made the connections, and so it's a service to other women as well. So I thank you.
Thank you very much for having me today.
It's time for a short break now here on Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan, and when I come back, I'll be talking with a woman who discovered that through shared grief, she could create practical joy. It's some story. In just a minute.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 CBS Radio.
Welcome back. Lorrain Franklin Taylor is a gospel singer. She is a producer, a playwright, a writer, a lecturer, and the organizer and founder of 1,000 Mothers to Prevent Violence. She had the personal experience that not only made that possible, made it necessary. Lorrain Franklin Taylor. Next. Lorrain Franklin Taylor, welcome to the program.
Oh, thank you, Robin, and thank you for having me this morning.
Well, it's an honor to have you here. I've talked a little bit about you in the introduction, but to revisit that, your beloved twin sons, you have 3 sons, but your twins were brutally shot down, gunned down together in Oakland 14 years ago in February 2000. And they were only 22 years old. And you turned that personal tragedy into an extraordinary I don't know, campaign is too small a word, mission to help other parents, mothers in particular, who lose their children to gun violence and to violence in general, by founding 1,000 Mothers to Prevent Violence. Tell our listeners what 1,000 Mothers to Prevent Violence really is.
Yes, Robin, I founded 1,000 Mothers to Prevent Violence approximately 7 years after losing my twin sons to gun violence in the city of Oakland. It was in response to my own tragic loss. For 7 years, I suffered in silence. I did not know how to deal with my grief. The first year, I worked as a social worker and thinking, Lorrain, work hard every day, and you don't have to think about this. And I actually doubled my caseload, brought my work home, worked until I passed out at night, and one day, almost 1 year later, I walked into a team meeting, and I did that same thing. I passed out, but not knowingly. I passed out because I had been overcome with grief.
Yeah.
And I found that after my doctor took me off work and said, Miss Taylor, I'm sorry, you can no longer work, I was forced to grieve, and I did it in silence for so many years. And one day I could sense the Holy Spirit, as I know him, saying to me, Lorrain, you can lie here and die here, or you can get up and live. What do you want to do? I said, Lord, I want to live. And God showed me I was not the only grieving mother. He showed me that there were so many, like thousands of grieving families right next door, right in Oakland, in the Bay Area, who were doing the same, had the same pattern of suffering in silence, did not know how to handle this type of grief. He said, get up and go see about them. And I did just that.
So out of this came many things: the Grieving Mothers Walk, the COPE, which is a bi-monthly, correct me if I'm wrong, support group that for mothers, families, victims, and survivors, delivering food as well as organizing visits to San Quentin State Prison and San Bruno County Jail and high schools. And I presume also campaigning against the proliferation of guns, which women all across this country, we keep saying, it's the problem is many different levels, but the primary, most obvious one is guns.
Well, guns is a huge problem. And we have the support group was the first program that I started, and I started the walk 4 years ago in response to my doctor telling me I had to take antidepressant. I gone back to school to work on a second master's. I wanted to get my MSW, went to work for the VA and could not handle it. So then I was forced to take antidepressant, and I did not want to continue hearing doorbells and thunder roaring. I'm neither for nor against it, but it didn't work for me, and I started walking around the San Leandro Marina, and that's how the Morning Mothers Walk was born, that we'll hold on May 5th this year. We'll have our 5th annual Morning Mothers Walk. When it comes to guns, I worked first with the Brady campaign, and we were in opposition with the NRA, and we were putting new laws on the book, and we worked hard to shut down gun stores. And I had to make a decision where I was going to place my energy, and I providing practical ongoing support and services directly to the families who have been impacted by violence is where I wanted to put my energy. Because if it were left up to me, there would be no guns in America, none at all. But we know that that's not going to happen. And with the NRA, with their money, power, and influence going right behind us, widening the loopholes where it's almost impossible to enforce these laws, you wonder if that work is in vain. We know that it's not, but it's very difficult. Right.
Well, also the work that you're doing, nobody else was doing, or they were doing it in fits and starts. I mean, nobody on a national level. You've received many awards and recognitions for this work. Most recently, Ebony Magazine named you one of their Power 100. I wish more women like you had power. Wow.
Well, more people do, Robin. I am so humbled by that. I was totally in awe when Ebony called me, because I know that there are other people out there who are trying to make a difference. So I'm totally humbled by these awards.
Well, yours is a very different kind of power than the other folks on the list, and I loved seeing you there and gravitated toward you immediately. Also, because you're this sort of Renaissance woman doing many different things. You're an actor. You've traveled and worked with Haitian families after their disaster. You've cut CDs and sung gospel. Yeah, I mean, you're one of those lazy women, who just sit around and you want to say, "What's the matter with you?" Geez, Lorraine, get a life. I mean, my God, where do you find time and energy for it all?
Well, I really don't have time to not be busy. In fact, I have to take time. As you mentioned earlier in our pre-conversation, I need to take time to write a book.
You do.
At the beginning of the year, I have to take a 40-day sabbatical. And I started that 5 years ago because I was grieving so desperately up until the date that I heard about the murders of my twin sons, college students minding their own business. It just happens to be 40 days from the 1st of January until the 9th of February. So I started 5 years ago just fasting and praying from the 1st of January until the 9th, which equals 40 days, so that I can process, so that I can pray and regroup and ask for directions. And that's how I managed to get through the rest of the year, because I have to take time out.
Yeah. Well, they were just working on a car and they were gunned down where they stood. But one of the best ways to remember them, I mean, certainly is the work that you've been doing ever since, but is a book. And I was encouraging Lorraine to do so because books go where the person can't. They go off into the world and have a life of their own, and they fall into somebody's hands and change their life. And they also last. They outlast us. So I couldn't encourage you more, and if I can be of any help in that area, I'll make sure that I will be.
Oh, thank you.
And Lorraine, give the website of 1,000 Mothers to Prevent Violence, because there's an activist listenership to this show.
Oh, I love your show. I absolutely love your show, and I would just love to hear from your listeners. Our website is 1000mothers.org, 1000 mothers.org.
And people can get involved. They can send support. They can find out about activities that are going on with this around the country, because although you're on the West Coast, the work of 1,000 Mothers has been spreading.
Yes, it has. And I get calls from all over the world, people sending emails just to say thank you. I get letters. I just put my hand on the letter while I was going through some papers this morning from someone named June Edwards, just saying my oldest son was murdered. He was also 22, and I'm writing you because I know that you understand. You know what I'm going through. And people will call and ask me if you can just go to Menlo Park, go to Antioch, go where my mother is and help her. And that helps towards my healing also.
Of course it
And a
does.
lot of people want to know, how can I help? I'm so far away. We have many ways that people can help. We love your support, your letters in support. We are part of the Combined Federal Campaign. You can also make a donation on our website if you would like to, and you can volunteer. So our focus is on helping to empower the families who are grieving and helping the children who are left behind. We have so many grandparents who have taken on the role of parenting the children of the homicide victims.
Yeah.
They need so much support.
Yeah, well, you do amazing work, and thank you for it, and thank you for being you, and thank you for being with us on Women's Media Center Live, too, Lorraine.
Oh, thank you, Robin. Thank you for having me.
And now it's time for Verbal Karate. So, the latest thorn in my soul is another binge phrase. You remember binge phrases are those, so I've named them, that become wildly popular and everybody seems to use and, in fact, overuse them for a while, and then they fall into disuse. Kick the can down the road was one a while ago. Reach out is still, unfortunately, in great popularity. People binge on them. And the latest one, which is really driving me bananas, is thought leader. Yeah. She's a thought leader. He's a thought. I've been told, and I'm supposed to say thank you, that I'm a thought leader. Well, I do not take it as a compliment. It sounds like something that you would say to Goebbels. We will tell you how to think, and if you do not think the way we want you to think, and the way we are leading you to think, we stand you up against the wall at dawn and we shoot you. What is that phrase? What does that mean? Are we so anti-intellectual now, that the word intellectual, as in public intellectual, a phrase from some years back, is out of use. I wasn't fond of that one either, because I always thought, well, gee, I'd sort of rather be a private intellectual. But the point is that intellectual itself has become such a negative in our culture, and so synonymous with nerd. Oh, we have a president who's an intellectual. He's nerdy. He's a wonk. And we have such suspicion of people who think that the only way, perhaps, to make that palatable is to link it to leadership, which is strong and manly and important. Thought leader. Could we please not lead thought? Thought has a right to meander, to wander, to find its own way. And if people influence each other in terms of thoughts, or as the academics would have it, memes, well, they must be persuasive. Maybe the thoughts are good thoughts. Maybe they have a life of their own. I know that I can't stop thought leader from being used. I'm becoming a crazy woman standing, railing at an onslaught of meaningless words, coming from a place in my soul where words still mean things, but at the very least, maybe we could limit thought leader to those people who kind of, when they use it, I don't know, don't think. Time for another quick break here at Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan, and I will be back in just a moment with Sheryl Sandberg, who at this point needs no introduction. But I'm going to face her with a difficult question, so don't go away.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 CBS Radio.
And we're back again. And coming right up is my next guest, Sheryl Sandberg, returning to the program. You will know that Sheryl is the COO of Facebook, much in the news, the author of a book called Lean In, urging women to be more assertive, and the founder and funder of an organization called Lean In, which urges women to do more of the same. Recently, the organization has done some very good things and has done a couple of things that made feminists at least confused and some of us pretty cranky. So we're going to talk about that. Welcome back, Sheryl, to Women's Media Center Live.
Thank you, Robin. It's always great to be with you.
Well, today we're going to talk about Lean In, not the book this time, although it's still out there and people are reading it, and it's still changing lives, but about the daughter of the book, the organization Lean In, that you founded, the nonprofit organization, and some of its programs, and the remarkable things that it's doing, and also a controversy that it got involved in. But let's start with Lean In's Ban Bossy initiative that just was launched a few days ago. Tell about it.
Well, I'm so excited to be able to talk about Ban Bossy because we just launched earlier this week. Ban Bossy is a public service campaign that we are launching to help focus everyone on the fact that we systematically discourage leadership in girls and women and stop discouraging it to start encouraging it. Bossy is a really important word. We basically don't call boys bossy. The word is used 4 times more for girls than boys. That's because when a little boy leads, it's expected and applauded. But when girls lead, they're called bossy, and then those girls grow up and they're told they're too aggressive or too ambitious in the workplace. By 6th grade, more boys than girls want leadership roles, whether that's a project in their class or to be their school president. And when the Girl Scouts works with them and asks them why they do these great data studies, it's because they don't want to be disliked or called bossy. And so we want to ban the word bossy and really start encouraging girls and women to lead.
And you're doing this through, there's programs for parents, programs for teachers, programs for girls. How does it actually operate?
It's a partnership between leanin.org, the Lean In nonprofit, and the Girl Scouts of the USA, working with Anna Marie Chavez, and also Condi Rice joined us to launch this. Mm-hmm. And we have just great information on our website. We hope you all come and join us, bandbossy.com. We have tips for girls, tips for parents, tips for teachers, tips for Girl Scout troop leaders, and tips for managers. And what each one of these tips does is it gives the data, the research that's important, and then it gives concrete suggestions for things you can do. Mm-hmm. So, for example,
give us
tips for parents. It says that by 7th grade, parents in this day and age in the United States have higher aspirations for leadership for their sons and their daughters. So, one of our suggestions is speak openly and, as importantly, as much to your girls as to your boys about future leadership roles they can have. Mm-hmm. Ask your girls what their hopes and dreams are to lead, not just your boys.
Right.
For teachers, the data shows that boys get much more airtime in class. They're called on more. They're able to call out. Girls are not called on as much. And when they do call out answers, are told to be quiet much more than boys. Mm-hmm. So one of our suggestions for teachers is to audit yourself. Just take a look. Get someone to watch or watch yourself to make sure you're calling on girls as much as boys. And Education Secretary Arne Duncan is part of our launch, and he's helping us get the message out to teachers.
Mm-hmm. And managers? You said there was a program for managers.
Managers, there's tips for managers. Yeah, our tips for managers are to really understand gender bias. Uh-huh. Gender bias is what makes us accept when a man negotiates for himself and react negatively to it when a woman negotiates for herself. And it's not just men who do that, it's men and women. Mm-hmm. And so for managers, we have a series of tips, everything from auditing how you pay people so you're paying people equally, to encouraging women to negotiate, to educating your workforce on gender bias so that they don't have the negative experiences. You can teach your organization that when you hear the words too aggressive, don't write down the woman's too aggressive in her performance review. Instead, let's ask some questions. What did she do that's too aggressive? Yeah. If a man did that exact same thing, would you have thought he was too aggressive?
Oh, they'd praise him and promote him. Yeah.
Correct. Tips for girls. We worked with Rachel Simmons, who was the co-founder of the Girls Leadership Institute. Mm-hmm. And the tips for girls are great. Teaching girls to express themselves, teaching girls to not be afraid to speak out, teaching girls to deal with conflict. One of her tips is talk, don't text. If you are upset with a girlfriend or upset with someone, don't text them. Talk about it. Mm-hmm. Sit down, learn to express yourself. Learn to express yourself and deal with conflict in a productive and positive way.
Mm-hmm. So this is a sort of full service, as it were, program that goes all the way from the home, the parents, through the schools, up to where one would be employed, and a woman might not be advanced or maybe not even hired to begin with, or certainly promoted if she was perceived as being, God forbid, too assertive.
That's exactly right. And the great thing about the program is it's very simple. Mm-hmm. All of these tips we have are a couple of pages, 10 very simple tips you can do. The thing that we build this on, the research this builds on, is how pervasive and harmful stereotypes are about leadership. Our stereotypes are so clear and they're self-perpetuating. Yeah. We expect leadership to look male, and we often expect leadership to look white. And that means that when leadership looks different, when it has different gender, it's female or different race, we react negatively to it. Mm-hmm. Condi Rice had a great quote on this. She said, we have to stop telling women they can lead and start expecting women to lead, expecting girls to lead, so that we raise a generation that doesn't shy away from leadership for fear of being called bossy, but instead encourage leadership in our girls and women. Mm. The nice thing is these are all things we can do every day. These are big changes we can make in our homes, in our workplaces, with our daughters, for girls themselves, that will make a really big difference, and we can do right now.
Yeah, it's a great program. It's terrific, and I wish you all the best with Ban Bossy. Now I'm going to.
We hope everyone joins us. We want you to come to our website, and we want you to post. I will hashtag Ban Bossy, but go to bandbossy.com, and everything's up there.
It's bandbossy.com. I am now going to lean in, and I'm going to risk being bossy. Which I have been accused of once or twice in my life. And
Robin, you're not bossy. You are a leader.
There you go. I like it much better. But I want to talk briefly about the controversy that had been sort of bubbling with Lean In. Lean In, for people who do not know, regularly lists trailblazing women you may not know but should on their website and in their materials. And they listed not long ago Florida Congresswoman Ileana Ros-Lehtinen. She's a Republican, but that's not the point. The point is that she is one of the most anti-feminist people holding office anywhere in the country. She voted to withdraw federal funding for Planned Parenthood and even for Title X. She's militantly anti-abortion, and she even voted against the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act. So she's been a real problem. Now, people were shocked and upset about this, and I know that Sheryl herself does not hold those positions, far from it. But tell me that this was a well-meaning but too generous error of Lean In, thinking that all women were feminists, and that tell me it won't happen again, that we won't see Sarah Palin or Michelle Bachmann as women to honor. I know that she was the first Latina in Congress, but still, she has been anti-Latina and anti-women in general. So tell me this won't happen again.
Glad. I'm really glad you asked, because I think it's important to clarify what happened. We did not honor her. We did a post on women that we think people should have heard of. And what we celebrated there was her life story. She was an immigrant from Cuba. She became the first Latina elected to the U.S. Congress, and that is what we were celebrating, and that only. What's really interesting about the community we're building, and I think all kinds of communities, is that we're a very open community. Leanin.org is online. Anyone can join. We welcome any woman, any man to participate in our discussion, regardless of your views. And our belief is if we invite people into the discussion, we'll convince them. We don't have
lots of luck with her. Lots of luck with Ileana.
Well, we don't have a policy stance. We don't test whether you agree on our policies, but we do have policy views. We support progressive policies for women. We support equal pay. We support Lilly Ledbetter. And so we're walking this line between celebrating leadership, women who made a mark on society, but we were very careful, and we added an editor's note to make it clear that we were not celebrating her policies. It was the question of her life story.
Because we wouldn't celebrate. And I could make an argument that among people we ought to know, she's not one of them, since she has been so virulently. We wouldn't celebrate Sarah Palin, who also at times claims to be a feminist. By the way, a whole lot of folks are claiming feminism. We're hot these days. Those of us who have toiled in the desert for 40 years, we wouldn't claim Michelle Bachmann. And it saddens me. I wish every woman were for women, but not all women are, as we well know, you and I. So I just hope that there's greater clarity in the future, because we care about Lean In, and we don't want to feel a punch in the stomach. So I do want to move.
We really believe what you believe, which is that more women in leadership roles will be a good thing. We do believe women should be feminists, and we do believe women should be supportive of pro-women policy.
Right. Yeah, I don't even, to be perfectly honest, Sheryl, I don't want women who are not supportive of other women in leadership. We've had that type as tokens for far too long, the imitation guys. And what we're about is getting the real thing, feminism with feminists. What a thought, I do want to move on, though, before we go, and talk about one more project of Lean In, which I think is really very constructive, which is the partnership with Getty Photographs. Talk a little about that. That's in the you have to see it to be it category, and it's really important.
Yeah, we're really excited about this too. A couple weeks ago, we launched the Lean In collection with Getty Images. Getty Images is one of the largest purveyors of stock photos. So people who are looking for images, whether it's for a newsletter or a website or an ad, often go to Getty and buy them. And their number one search is women. And we've worked with them to create the Lean In collection. It's 2,500 pictures. They are women with agency, women in powerful positions, women who look like regular women, regular bodies, very diverse. When you do a search of women working, you get actual women working. When you do a search for fathers, you don't get, very stereotypical woman in suit handing baby off to a father as she screams. You get happy fathers with happy children. When you do pictures of women eating, our internal joke was no more pictures of women eating salad alone. Real women with real friends.
Yeah.
And real food. But it is striking. Time magazine did a great piece, if anyone wants to look it up, on the 10 ridiculously sexist images and Lean In's alternative. And they were striking. They had, women in non-office jobs, and their image was a very sexy woman with like a hammer and like a little white tank top. And our image was a real woman who was working in a real place.
Right.
And, children going to school. One of the old images is a child crying hysterically as the mother leaves. And, our image is a happy child going to school with a happy mother going to work. I think you're right. You can't be what you can't see.
Okay,
and if we want women to have power,
go ahead,
to have agency, we wanted to show positive depictions of real women doing real jobs, and just as importantly, real men being equal partners and parents. And we're super excited. There's been just a huge outpouring of support for this. The collection's going very well. People are using the images, and we hope the collection will grow. And we're super grateful to Getty for caring this much.
And do people, let me backtrack for 1 second and say that I'm glad Time Magazine covered this positively, because they have been among the guilty for years of using the other kinds of images. But where do people, can they find out about this too on the website?
On Getty. Yeah, you can go to the Getty Images website, or you can always go to leanin.org and we can see everything. But if you go to Getty and you type in Lean In Collection, it comes up. And the pictures really are fantastic. Real women, real meetings, real bodies.
No more happy woman brandishing a frying pan and feeling as if it's the greatest moment of her life.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or when you search women working, no more women in, stiletto heels and short skirts walking up an actual ladder.
Right.
But instead of that, women who are actually at work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And women and girls, great. They did such a great job. Great pictures of girls playing sports, girls who look strong, girls who look powerful, girls who are literally leaning in.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
We just had our Oscar show and our movies show, and we were talking with both researchers and with, of course, Jane Fonda, my sister co-conspirator, about women in films and how just devastating it still is. The Women's Media Center annual report just came out about the status of women in media, and, Hollywood lags so far behind, and if you don't see it, you can't be it. I mean, we've got to change this. So the Getty Lean In partnership is a really important step in the right direction. And I know that you will have pro-choice and pro-woman candidates for your list in future.
Well, we're excited because we really believe that the world would be a better place if there were more women leaders. I also want to applaud the Women's Media Center. I've been a long-term supporter of what you do, and I think the points you're making in the world are so important. We're excited to work with you.
Thank you, and right back at you. Take care, Sheryl, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me. Bye, everyone.
It's time for one more short break here. I have to say that is one clever woman, Sheryl. Bit slippery. What would you expect? Her mentor was Larry Summers. She's a survivor of Larry Summers, and she is a feminist, and she's doing good stuff, but it's always so interesting for all of us, because we're all works in progress. It's like a race between how much will women change power and how much will power change women. Interesting. Well, we'll hold her feet to the fire, and to her credit, she's willing to let her insteps be exposed. Meanwhile, it is time for another short break here at Women's Media Center Live, where I am still, obviously, Robin Morgan. And when we come back, it will be time for Fighting Words. And also, I'm going to tell you where I'm going to be speaking during March and April, a number of speeches around the country. And if you're in that area, I would love it if you come by and say hello. So stick with us. We'll be back in a moment.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 CBS Radio.
Welcome back again, just in time for Fighting Words. So this is what happens when you don't try to lead thought as a thought leader, but you try to follow a thought. It's been bugging me that I left something out of my Ukraine report at the top of the program, and I couldn't locate what it was until just now. I forgot to mention all those young, beautiful Ukrainian women whose pictures wind up in my spam filter and yours of our email, described as juicy Ukrainian women, importable as, quote, brides for your pleasure, unquote. They, of course, have been trapped in the international slave industry of sex and using women for sale. And that, in turn, led my thinking to the two pieces that I wrote this past week that you can easily find online. They posted at The Guardian in the comments section. That one was on dissent in the women's movement. And the other one, which also got a huge amount of attention, was at CNN.com, and you can find it still in the opinion section. The CNN.com one was on Amnesty International's debating taking a position on decriminalizing pimps and brothel owners because it's concerned for their civil rights and human rights. The AI controversy made me realize that the same liberals and leftists and progressives and generally good people who are against capitalism and consumerism and globalization and corporations, bad corporations, somehow don't ever figure into their equations the absolute massive global sex industry, which actually is an interlinked industry of pornography, prostitution, and trafficking. You can't treat them separately. They're all intermeshed. So almost $100 billion a year is the take on pornography alone in the United States alone. The International Labor Organization notes that between 2 and 14% of the GDP of Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines is based on prostitution. South Korea's sex industry generates 4% of its GDP. The Netherlands nets 5% of its GDP from prostitution. These are corporations that run this. I mean, everybody inveighs against Walmart and Nike, as we should, because they pay wages so low that they drive women into prostitution. So I would like to know, why do not those same folks who inveigh against capitalism and globalization and corporations not understand that this vast corporate entity is capitalist and is certainly globalized? So we're going to return to this, but in the meanwhile, my heart goes out to those young Ukrainian women who are trapped in my spam filter and in yours. And that's our program this week. I will be speaking at Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, Connecticut on March 25th in the daytime. The Women's Center there will have all the relevant information. Then on March 27th, I'll be at the University of Georgia in Athens, speaking at 6:30 p.m. in the Miller Learning Center. Last, I'll be at the University of North Carolina, Asheville campus on April 3rd. If you're in the neighborhood near any of those dates, come say hello. Today, you've been listening to us on CBS Radio, WJFK 1580 AM, or you've been visiting us at WMCLive.com for this and for the whole rich archive of all our previous episodes. Be sure to find WMC Live on Facebook, Twitter, and at iTunes worldwide, where you can stream, download, and subscribe to the show's podcast. Portions of the program were taped earlier. Views expressed here do not necessarily represent the WMC. Here's the family for Women's Media Center Live. WMC President and Executive Producer of this program, Julie Burton. Senior Producer, Crystal Williams Chancellor, and our founding sponsor, Regina K. Scully. I'm Robin Morgan. Thanks for being with us. Join us next week when the all-woman Capella Clausura Choir will be back, and they will perform this time for us a newfound gem of women's musical history, a 16th century Italian genius who wrote gorgeous madrigals at age 14. We'll also catch up with what I prematurely promised you last week, WMC President Julie Burton taking us through what the Women's Media Center 2014 Status of Women in the Media Report really means. Plus, political commentator and host of her own MSNBC show, Disrupt, Karen Finney will be with us too. Only here on Women's Media Center Live.
For the smartest talk about news, politics, sex, books, religion, race, and more, tune your radio to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan. Audacious, witty, provocative, informative, and fun. It's Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 CBS Radio and WMCLive.com. Talk radio with a brain.